Thank you. Thank you so much, Lulu, for the introduction. Yes, I actually will be walking you through today's webinar, and thank you for everyone for attending. We're going to talk a little bit about banking experiences, real-time experiences, omni-channel experiences, and also Mairo CDP in terms of how we actually help clients across the banking and financial services industry to deliver real-time experiences and ultimately have higher conversion rates. Before I start, let me actually talk a little bit about Mairo for anybody that actually does not know the company. I just wanted to briefly introduce who we are. We are actually a software company that was created back in 2017 in Singapore. We actually have grown. We have presence pretty much across 3 different continents, from Europe to APAC, as well as in the MENA region. Our R&D offices are actually in Czechia, so we service clients all pretty much in different time zones across different regions. And especially when we first founded the company, the solution was geared toward the need of a large bank in Central Asia. Therefore, our clients are pretty much large clients, banks, and insurance companies, but we also have grown our success across a lot of different industries, across e-commerce and so on and so forth, which actually gives us a lot of advantage in terms of understanding the overall customer experiences, and how it's evolving not only across banks, but also across e-commerce companies, mobile first companies. And it gives us also the chance to actually kind of apply everything that we know across different industries, the whole knowledge, to bring that into perspective. I want to actually, before I start talking about the details, I want to kind of give a brief overview of how where banking is in terms of the bank in general. When we look at the omni-channel banking, what that means. Banks actually have been able to very successfully bring in the digital channels to the traditional banking channels in terms of how we transact with the bank. We can actually not only do that through offline channels, whether it's an ATM, kiosk, branch, call center, but we can actually interact with the bank through different channels 24/7, whether it's like the online banking, the mobile banking, and so on and so forth. And now of course, in Europe, with the Open Banking Initiative, not only we can transact with one bank, but we can actually also transact with multiple different banks. Let's say if I have an account with one bank, I can actually interact with a lot of different banks in the same application, which is phenomenal. But having said that, a transaction actually happens 24/7 across all the different channels, whether it's online or offline. But you can see I actually put a very clear line between the two. Sometimes, I don't know if you've seen that, I myself experienced that quite a bit as a consumer. I can actually transact anytime, anywhere that I want with my bank. But however, I don't feel like the experience does match the transaction. What I mean by that, and I'm going to use an example from my own self in terms of how I as a consumer experience the whole interaction with my own bank. I'm a consumer that actually, changes a car every 4 years, and I always bank with the same bank in terms of getting my car loan, having my insurance with the same bank, and I'm a pretty good consumer that actually pays on time, have a good credit score, and so on and so forth. I have actually come to the 4th year and I want to change my car. I just did not have the time nor the energy to actually look for a loan, look for the potential different options that I have. However, and I actually visited my bank during my lunch hour to kind of see what the offers are. I went to the kiosk and actually put my intent there. I'm interested in a car loan. And I waited for about 30 minutes. And when I actually approached the agent, the first thing she told me is like, you could have done that on the mobile app, and everything that we did afterwards was actually on the app itself in terms of like even like signing the documents and so on and so forth, which is great. But however, like, you know, I do have the app, I do have all the channels. You know me as a consumer, you actually know the patterns, my own patterns. Why not send me a message when I have reached that 4-year term and propose me, remind me of a loan before I actually went into the bank itself? So why does that happen? And what do I mean by transaction versus interaction? I gave you myself as an example. I want actually immediate results and answer. I want a frictionless experience across channels and devices that I use. And the most important, and I think this is where I feel like there's a problem where in terms of the experience, the moment one and where it matters to most, the timely and relevant communication. Before I actually look for some information for the bank to be able to see that, recognize that, and actually act on that at the right time and moment. And when I mean right time and moment, again, I'm going to give you an example of how critical that is. You know, again, I have a credit card that actually gives me certain offers. Like, let's say I do buy, we gave a car example, I buy gas. And every time I buy gas, like, you know, the first time, second time, apparently on the third time, there's a reward. But that reward was actually, you know, I got that reward at 3 o'clock in the morning, a message saying on your third purchase, you can actually get a certain benefit. But then when I went to the gas station on my third purchase, I actually did not even get any message at all. So when that matters is like, I want to be able to receive that message when I do the transaction at the third interaction right then and there. Otherwise, if you send me a message at 3 o'clock in the morning, that really does not mean anything. Not only it's like, it almost is a bad experience itself. But why does this happen? I gave you the examples where actually, you know, there's an opportunity and a failed experience. And why does that happen? And what are the challenges? First of all, data silos. I'm sure you all heard about it. Data silos for banks is actually also a little bit beyond what you would think. It's like data across systems, but it's also data across online and offline channels, and also data across on premises, what the bank actually holds within their own local area network versus all the digital data, all the consumer transactions that happens actually, whether online, on the app, and so on and so forth. And of course, on top of that, you also have IT systems and channel lock-in, meaning channels are actually managed by different teams, and each sometimes use a different application or a different platform for that. And therefore, the data that actually one channel has, the other channel does not necessarily know about that. And of course, the product data sits somewhere else, loan data is on another system, and so on and so forth. Therefore, when you actually have data silos across, you know, systems and also across channels, which actually prohibits the ability for banks to be able to activate that data in real time when and where it matters to most, especially when you're dealing with, let's say, when you're doing a transaction on your mobile app, or let's say when you're at the kiosk or at the bank itself, at the branch itself. So all these are challenges that actually prohibits banks to be able to deliver that seamless real-time experience, no matter what the channel or the device the customer is actually using. How we look at this problem and this challenge a little bit differently. We looked at the customer identity as the foundation for every interaction. And we based everything that we do in terms of offering the personalized, seamless experiences in real time. And of course, secure experiences, meaning without actually breaching any kind of like personal identifiable information, being a problem in terms of bringing that real-time personalized experience. And I'm going to just talk about a little bit about identity resolution and how we actually have a holistic approach to know your customers when they change one device or they actually interact with the bank across the different channels, across the different, whether I use my phone or I'm on the desktop, or whether I call the call center or I'm at the branch itself. So what we actually look at when we work with the banks, and I have actually had the opportunity to work with many banks over the years in terms of addressing this particular challenge. Before we actually like build campaigns or build personalized experiences, we actually look at, you know, the current status, like the current state of how many different systems there is, and also how different systems actually keep the identity, whether it's like cookie ID, advertising ID, a customer identification number, an agreement number, and so on, a credit card number, and so on and so forth. What we do is we actually make sure that the solution that we offer is adaptable to new systems and technologies, which is key, I believe. A CRM was used actually, like, you know, it's a great system, but it's not a system that you can rely on to bring all the digital new IDs. So we actually try to make sure that when we bring in the platform, we try to make that identity resolution be adaptable as there are new technologies, new channels of engagement, and new touch points in the customer, across the customer. Persistent ID, we also try to decouple identity from different systems, meaning like separating that, preventing vendor lock-in, whether you're using a different system for your email gateway, or let's say you're a different system to be able to, for your mobile application. We try to actually make sure that you have a persistent ID above all the other identifiers, whether it's a cookie ID, token ID, advertising ID, that will live as long as the customer lives. And also we try to identify the different gaps across the enterprise to kind of understand where there are the touch points where you actually have problems identifying the customer, not only just identifying the customer, but bringing all the historical data that you have on the customer to the time of the experience, meaning me at the gas station, making a purchase, being able to recognize that in that moment of time when I pass my credit card, and to be able to recognize the fact that this is actually my third purchase right then and there, and if there's actually an offer for me. So the actionable steps that we take, we also try to develop strategies to close gaps and improve resolution, meaning identify all the different systems, but we also start from the customer itself, you know, walk from the experience back to the systems to see if actually to be able to deliver those real-time experiences, do we have everything that we need, all the data that we need? And are we going to be able to actually identify the customer at the different touch points when every time they actually change a device or a channel? And just to kind of give you a different how we look at the identity resolution and how an ID graph looks within Mairo CDP. We try to bring all the different behavioral data across online and offline channels to create a unified profile that powers all the experiences, whether they're real-time experiences or any campaigns that you actually have planned for your consumers. We try to bring in, like I mentioned, all the different device data, desktop, tablets, branch, online, offline, and all the different inquiries that a customer makes across their life cycle, whether it's a new customer or a customer that you've known for years. It's to be able to actually track all the devices seamlessly and all the different IDs that all these devices have, and to be able to also capture all the real-time engagement when and where it happens is really critical. And just to kind of highlight how Mairo CDP works, we talked about the challenges, we talked about the identity resolution being really the essential piece of the puzzle to be able to deliver those real-time experiences. I just want to, before I go into more examples, I want to show you how Mairo CDP works and how we differentiate, how we're a little bit different than the other traditional engagement platforms that you might have encountered. like I mentioned before, the fact that we can actually bring in real-time data sources, whether it's like from your digital channels, your website, your mobile app, and be able to actually bring in on-premise historical data sources even from legacy systems, to be able to combine those two and being able to bring those two in different ways and be able to solve the identity problem that you have between the online and offline channels. Like I mentioned, we start with the profile and the identity resolution, the stitching, the real-time behavior, and being able to bring all the consent data and all the product data actually within that stitching. So it's not only just knowing the customer across the different devices, touch points, but also knowing the real-time behavior, the historical data, as well as all the product and consent data to be able to actually recognize the customer and recognize also their preferences and their consent. On top of that clean data that we have, we also give you all the tools that you will need to be able to act in real time, to make decisions in real time. The decisioning engine actually allow you to build some business rules on top of all the data that you have, whether it's like rules that you build, but also rules that you can actually build with like machine learning and artificial intelligence. We also offer some propensities, some next best action models, the ability to actually score customers and so on and so forth, and also analytics and insights to be able to actually also be able to determine profitability or any kind of data that you will need to be able to make better decisions in real time. On top of that, we also give you a tool that can actually build audiences and any kind of segments, any kind of real-time audiences in terms of understanding the intent, be able to enrich data in terms of at the moment of engagement, you can actually enrich data, the customer data with historical data in real time, and also be able to build lookalike audiences. And once we do that, we actually also allow to be able to not just ingest, unify, and build segments, but to be able to activate those in real time in terms of like whether it's advertising, call center, whether it's building journeys, customer experiences, or actually be passing those data to your analytics platforms or building performance reports based on the data that you have collected. And once we do that, I'm going to actually cover all the different ROIs that we have received with better data. We actually see a lot of results in terms of the return on advertising. We actually get better qualified leads and engagement growth and revenue growth. I will actually kind of cover all the different conversions with the different examples that I have in terms of what we have actually experienced in the banking industry. We talked about identity-driven seamless experiences in real time. I just want to start off with one of the recent actually case studies that we have with the consumer bank in Europe. And the challenge here was actually pretty interesting. It's a bank that actually have a new mobile app, and they were looking at two particular cases, one being the migration of the new app, and also another one being a loan application on that app. So we had two particular use cases, but really what was really important for the bank was actually a seamless transaction to the new mobile platform. And also, they also were looking at online, offline data unification and really get real-time insights across all the different touch points that actually are happening before a customer converts, meaning like, do they download the app because they saw an ad? Did they download the app because they clicked an email? Did they download the app because it was organically? So it was actually kind of understanding the whole customer life cycle and across the different touch points for particular conversion goals, one being downloading the app, the new app, and the second one being the loan application. And what we actually started with, we actually looked at track the onboarding app onboarding stages to prevent drop-offs. As you can imagine, with the new KYC and all the new different regulations, banks nowadays have actually a lot more steps in their onboarding journey, which actually prevents more often than not drop-offs at certain stages of it. So we were trying to identify what those stages were, and also not only identify those stages, but also be able to prevent drop-offs. And we actually added a couple of unique different ways to actually prevent drop-offs. We also kind of looked at which step they dropped off, have a survey in real time to actually kind of ask why they quit the onboarding process. If it's actually a high value client, pass that data to the call center to actually immediately call the client to kind of promote them to finish the onboarding journey, and so on and so forth. And the other one was actually the loan application progress, in terms of understanding, the steps a customer takes in terms of on applying for a loan, and understanding, are they a new customer, existing customer, which actually channels, refer or campaigns they came to a particular form, did they submit the form, and try to understand how many different interactions that they have before they convert, was actually one of the other goals in terms of the loan application journey. And when we do that, one critical point was not only tracking those engagements, understanding drop-offs, but preventing it in real time, in terms of understand the onboarding series, every touch point that happened on there, understanding the ratio of downloads versus successful onboarding, and also successful first step in terms of doing a transaction. And also not only identify those people, but have real-time messages to actually also improve the customer experience in real time, whether it was through the onboarding step or whether it's through for the loan application, and being able to, again, unify offline and online transactions, and be able to have the call center in the moment when it matters the most, whether there's the onboarding step was not completed, be able to help them wherever that drop-off has occurred, or whether there's a problem in the loan application, the submission or whatnot, having the call center actually be able to, in real time, be able to contact the customer with all the data that they have available to them, to actually improve the customer experience, but also improve the conversion rates at the same time. Well, we have the results that we achieved. Of course, it's the customer view, the data unification from all online and offline channels, being able to optimize the customer experience with journey analytics, understanding, like I mentioned, all the different touch points, the drop-offs, where it occurs, and try to improve all of that and have better experiences, whether it's online or offline. Reduce abandonment rates for the app onboarding and the loan application journey. And we saw really good success for that as well. And of course, organizational efficiency, when we're talking about customer experience on one side, but we're also are being able to help organizationals functions better in terms of cross functions coming together, be able to see actually all the customer data, all the different reports and so on, in the same platform, whether it's the call center, whether it's the mobile app developers, and also channel managers, and so on and so forth. And also being able to have automated and event-triggered notifications is also really was really key for the organization. So that actually, I started with a case study for one of our customers, but I want to actually take a step back from that and just kind of give you an idea of how we look at customer experience in terms of hyper-personalizing across the entire customer journey, across the entire customer life cycle. When we look at, of course, we start at, awareness. We looked at, not only for the customers that you have onboarded, but also how do you actually grow your customer base, acquire new customers, and so on and so forth. So when we also look at the awareness campaign, and we actually here again focus on the anonymous users as well. So it's not just, identifying your customers when at the time of interaction, but also identifying whether it's a brand new consumer or a client that you actually have. And if it's an anonymous user, be able to start collecting data from the first moment that you have actually started interacting with that new customer, with that new prospect. When we also try different ways to enrich data. And that also is true not just for customers that you know, but also for customers that you have no data on. It could be leads, prospects, or new customers. We can actually bring in a lot of different strategies to enrich data as much as you can, whether it's like through zero-party data or even second-party, third-party sources. And we actually look at real-time personalization when we try to, for the conversion campaigns. And we also try to identify high-value customers, try to build lookalike segments, and also look for upsell and cross-sell opportunities in terms of acquisition. Again, not just acquiring new customers, but also growing the customer base that you actually have and personalizing every moment of interaction, understanding intent, and bringing in, AI models, machine learning models to determine next best action, next best offer in the moment when at that moment of time, and also, of course, customizing in-person experiences. But while you do that, of course, make sure that you also understand the customer and all their consent in terms of how they want to be communicated, which channel they want to be communicated on, and so on and so forth. And of course, we use predictive model to uncover new opportunities for upsell and cross-sell. We also can bring in, customer scoring, net promoter score, bring in surveys, referral programs to actually grow your customer base, grow revenue, grow lifetime value. And in terms of retention and loyalty, preventing churn is key at this stage of the interaction. Win back customers that you might have lost, or customers that actually maybe use your bank just to do transactions, like whether it's like getting their wage deposits and then just sending that back to another bank. So win back customers, and of course, grow brand loyalty across channels, determining the affinities, and being able to include paid media interactions to that whole customer lifecycle in terms of personalizing the engagement from the first moment of interaction all the way to optimizing your return on marketing investment across all the different channels you use, whether they're paid channels, organic channels, or all the inbound, outbound channels. We talked about media targeting optimization. This is something that it's one of the use cases that we can activate right off the bat when we start the onboarding process of a CDP. And it's usually, you can also, how we approach media targeting to optimize it, we try to look at your best customers, your most valuable customers, whether like looking at their credit score or looking at their net worth, or the probability to churn, or any other parameter that you can think of, attribute that you can think of that actually makes a customer your ideal customer. And we can use that to build lookalike audiences from your first-party data, and then actually use that to retarget across the paid media channels. And that actually is a great way. We always see great conversions in terms of not only conversions, but also lower ad spend and increase on return on ad spend. So this is actually a scenario that we can automatically start with when we first start onboarding our consumers, the media targeting optimization, to actually show you conversions and the revenue return of a customer data platform using the paid media channels. And of course, create propensity scores, like to be able to identify your best customers, and then kind of spending your media spend in a more optimum way. Zero-party data collection, that's something that we actually use not just for, you can use this for customers, for anonymous visitors to understand their intent in that moment of time, in real time, whether it's the mobile application or the website, to understand their intent and use that data to personalize the website. Well, if they're interested in a credit card, you can actually bring in the credit card offers. If it's for business banking, and if they're interested in, let's say, loans for small business, you can actually bring in the relevant offers. Even for users that you have no historical data on, you can actually try to collect data in that moment of interaction with really like small surveys. We can also, the same way you can use not only for anonymous visitors, but for clients that you actually know, we can actually use historical data, but then kind of in that moment of engagement, maybe add data that you might have been missing. Like one small example could be like, let's say you have, you don't have a valid number for your client. Let's say the GSM number is no longer reachable. If a client has login, you can even use the personalized surveys in that moment of time to actually even say like, we have a wrong number for you. Would you like to just like, give us like the correct number, update your communication information. So all of these, I think, real-time engagement, we can actually use not just like, to send messages, but also maybe use it for zero-party data collection to either enrich data or even for data hygiene purposes as well. Lead scoring, that's also something I think it's really valuable in terms of, again, using that real-time experience and the behavior in real time to kind of assess the intent or the value of a lead. Let's say they have spent a certain amount of time, they have filled out a form, but did not submit it, or they looked at like a couple of different offers, and kind of be able to use that. And let's say if a client reaches a certain point, that means it's a high value customer for you. And we can even bring in, if it's a client that you actually know, we can actually even bring the historical data to on top of that real-time score to assign a task to a CRM and have that lead be contacted because they're more valuable. And then identify the ones that are like less valuable, and then maybe even just like reactivate those using different channels, whether it's like following up with email campaigns and so on and so forth. So it's really using the real-time behavior and scoring clients and being able to, in real time, have different segments and have different engagement plans and different ways of communicating with the client, depending on the value and depending on the likelihood to convert. It's, again, we talked about revenue, but it's also, I think, a platform like a customer data platform is also key in terms of optimizing your budgets and your spend for especially for media channels. So we can not only kind of orchestrate your channels in terms of your organic, your outbound channels, but we can also bring in that same logic to your paid media channels, which is really, I think, which is very innovative in terms of like, let's say you have a very high custom audience that you want to target of like 50,000, 60,000 people, but you want to optimize your budget. We can actually, kind of divide the audience into like percentages and try different media outlets like Facebook, Google Ads, and so on and so forth. And even maybe wait a certain amount of time, track the conversion, and if you actually reach the conversion that you were looking for, let's say this was a credit card offer and you want a certain number of conversions, we can actually even kind of like, not target the remaining. So it's really about optimizing your ad spend and making sure that you actually are targeting the right people and not necessarily like constantly targeting the same audiences and spending money really just randomly. Again, like a couple of different scenarios that we actually have. It's also for onboarding and activating new credit card customers. This is something that we also see a lot with different banks in terms of clients having different credit cards, but sometimes a problem in terms of the activation. So the goal here, of course, is actually, you know, the sooner you activate it, the better it is. You will actually have, you know, more usage of that credit card. So here we can actually build journeys in terms of how to look at the different interaction. Let's say if a customer has not activated the credit card and 30 days after receiving it, we can actually, you know, look at the different channels where we can reach them, send a message, follow up messages, and so on and so forth, and try to push for a certain conversion. And or we can actually use real-time engagement, like when they actually log into the mobile app or to the website, we can pop up a message right then and there, actually reminding them that they haven't activated their credit card or haven't activated a certain product. So we can actually use both type of engagements, whether it's like, you know, a journey with particular different steps in it, or actually real-time engagement to promote a certain conversion. Next best offer, of course, is also very key in terms of being able to not just computing the offer. Usually banks have the offer sitting in the system for different products, or maybe even different systems for different products. But here, it's really important not just like actually computing the offer, but being able to present that right then, when and where it matters most. Like, let's say, especially here for me, the next best offer would probably be a car loan, but it's also important to be able to compute that, but present that in real time, let's say at the moment of engagement, sending, or even be able to predict, let's say, the best channel of communication, where your consumer is going to be most responsive to, also the next best time to communicate, when to send that message, is also something that we can actually bring on top of a next best offer, presenting that offer in real time, and at the right channel and at the right time. Again, we talked a lot about real-time experiences. This is actually identifying and retaining your most profitable segments. It could be like a large transfer, and let's say this happens usually with clients that have like wage deposits, that are using just a bank to have their wages deposits in a particular account, and then like we see a pattern of every month, like having that wage, having big sums of it like transferred to other banks. So how we can prevent that is actually, if this is a pattern that happens, or if like, let's say this is a very high value client and they're doing like a large transfer, and let's say on top of it, they don't have a credit account with you, or like, let's say there's a next best offer sitting for that particular customer, we can actually in real time, when that wire transfer happens, present a value based on the different rules that we have set up. If the client matches those rules in real time, we can actually present an offer to prevent them from making that transaction, or to actually make them adopt the bank's products a little bit more than they actually are using. Location triggered offers are great as well, like especially if you have, let's say, you know, travel cards or mile cards, any type of different products that you can actually, that where location would matter to promote, incentivize certain transaction. That actually also is another data that we can use in terms of looking at the location and seeing if there's a relevant offer for that particular location, to be able to actually make that engagement a little bit more contextualized and a little bit more personalized in that moment, and bringing that location data into the picture. Of course, churn prevention is, again, when we look at the customer life cycle, we started with the acquisition. We looked at the, you know, acquisition, the growing share of wallet, and of course, retention and winning back. Again, here, I have a couple of different scenarios for machine learning. One was next best offer. And we can also look at churn prevention and churn prediction to be able to prevent churn, again, in real time. Let's say, looking at certain rules, look at the timeline and kind of understanding the pattern of transaction, understand the likelihood to churn, and then use that data to be able to prevent churn in let's say, either with engagements in real time when there's actually transaction from the client, whether it's like calling the call center or having a transaction in one of the channels, or even like sending a message to present an offer to actually bring them back to do certain transactions, or bring them back as consumer with alternative product offers and so on and so forth. So from personalized to identity first banking, I think it's really, we talked about personalization, about real-time experiences, real-time personalization. And I think personalization is really important for banks, but also I think if you don't bring the identity and make the identity first banking, put the customer at the center of every interaction, understand the customer across the different touch points, be able to stitch the identity in real time is really key. So I wanted, before I finish today's presentation, I just wanted to also kind of things to consider for future growth in terms of like things that you can actually look into to be able to be ready for the future, especially when you have like, you know, changes like open banking initiative, when competition is going to be even more fierce. And I think where customer is actually going to have a lot more control of their data and of their decisioning. Data capture is key. I mentioned that several times throughout my presentations. Can your systems capture and unify internal and external data sources in any format across the different sources? That's really important because you have actually data, structured data, unstructured data, semi-structured data. Can your system actually be able to get all different types of data from all the different sources, be able to unify that, and also unify the identity, the many different identities that the customer has? So that's really, I think, data capture is a key question to answer in terms of like for not today, but also for the future, when you have more systems, when you have actually also new regulations like the Open Banking Initiative. Real-time actions, like, are you able to capture real-time data to drive immediate actions? Like I said, like for me, it's like, was visiting the branch. Like I'm at the branch, but can you actually, and I have, you know, put my intent at the branch saying I'm interested in a car loan. Can you actually, you have that data, you know who I am, you know I'm at the location, and you also know my intent, which is great. But then can you actually have immediate actions based on that? You know, can you actually send me a message right then and there through the mobile app or through email or whatever channel, or can you actually make me an offer when you know my intent? I think is really being able to match real-time intent with real-time action. Of course, identity security. Is your identity resolution process secure enough to prevent frauds across all your channels? Meaning, I think it's really also important, okay, you have all the data, now you're able to resolve the identity problem, but also is the solutions that you're working for across the different channels are able to prevent fraud and to be able to still be able to engage with the customer in real time, and have a secure platform that can actually give you that ability. Collaboration, I think, is also very key. You know, we have, you can have a lot of different systems, a lot of different platforms, but it also comes into cross-functional teams collaborating effectively on a unified platform. Like I mentioned before, like if you have different teams across the organization managing different channels, different teams managing the mobile application, the email channel, different teams managing the website experience. Like, how can you have omni-channel seamless experiences while you have, you know, your teams actually working on different platforms and they're not collaboratively working? So I think it's really also collaboration between the different functions of the organization, using a unified platform, and avoiding silos, data silos, to be able to actually deliver that seamless experience across the different channels is key. Also, the cross-functional collaboration across your teams, across the different platforms, across the different channels. Personalization, like I think, are you able to deliver real-time offers throughout the customer life cycle? Looking at all the different cases I've actually presented, whether it's like onboarding new clients, offering cross-sell, upsell offers, and also retaining customers, preventing churn. Are you actually able to, cover all the different cycles, all the different stages of the customer life cycle, and be able to present, bringing that real-time offer across the different channels and across time, of course. Future readiness: is your banking infrastructure ready to adopt an identity-first approach for compliance and future technology? Again, that I think is someplace that we always start first, the identity-first approach, putting the customer at the center of the interaction, but then looking back at the infrastructure of the bank in terms of the different platforms, technologies, touch points, to be able to actually not only look for today, but then also for the future, when you're bringing new channels, when you're bringing new regulations and new initiatives, looking back to see at your technology to see if your current platforms match that, not only today, but in the coming years. I think this is the best in terms of using the time effectively and still leaving a little bit of time for Q&A. What do you think, Lulu? Do we have enough time? I believe we have about 12 minutes, 5 minutes to get some.
Yeah, so does anyone have any questions? For now, we don't have anything in the Q&A or in the chat, but if you have any, please put them. But if not, it seems Chanda, she probably explained it clear enough for everyone.
No.
But to everyone, if you have any questions, we'll send you a recording after this and you can reply to that email. If you have any follow-up questions, you need to absorb it first and watch the recording and ask them. Just ask away in that email. Thank you so much, Chandash. That was a great presentation, very insightful. And thank you to our attendees for joining us today. As mentioned, please check your mailbox after this for the recording, and reply back to that for any questions, follow-up questions. Until next time, have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.